These are the plaintiffs, Derek Williams and Inez Perez. Derek says he and his girlfriend, Inez, rented an apartment, and the sneaky defendant's going back on his word regarding their security deposit, and they're outraged. That's right, they made a deal with this guy. He turned around and stabbed them in the back, and they're here seeking justice and the return of their hard-earned $1,500. This is the defendant, Rafael Nunez. He says the plaintiff stayed in the apartment after their lease ended, and the lease clearly stated the apartment will automatically renew for another year. The lackadaisical plaintiffs never gave him a definitive move-out date. He has every right keeping their security and could have easily charged them penalties, but he's a nice guy, and he didn't. He's accused of keeping all of it.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case from the docket. The plaintiffs say they rented an apartment from the defendant, and the sneaky guy owes them money and will not own up to it. But the defendant claims that the plaintiffs overextended their stay past the end of their lease, so he doesn't owe them squat. It's the case of, like a fish, you begin to stink.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right. Derek Williams and Inez Perez, you are suing N&N Properties, represented here by Rafael Nunez. You are the owner for the $1,500 security deposit that he refuses to return. Let me hear from either Mr. Williams or Ms. Perez, whoever wants to tell me the story.
Yes. Well, we moved in October of 2020, and it was $1,000 a month, and we stayed. He told us, I never met him. I deal with his brother. I presume it's his brother, Jose.
Yeah, we've never met.
So I dealt with Jose all the time. Real nice guy. You know what I mean? He told us to give him 3 months in advance.
3 months in advance. What does that mean?
3 months in advance notice before we're not going to renew the lease. He
Okay,
told
well,
us
what does your lease say you have to give in terms of notice?
I don't know what the lease says. The lease.
Well, let's look at it. According to the lease, it says renewable 1 year. And then under the renewal clause, it says renewals and changes in lease. The landlord may offer the tenant a new lease to take effect at the end of the lease. The new lease may include reasonable changes. The tenant will be notified of any proposed new lease at least blank days, but it's blank. Why isn't that filled in, Mr. Nunez?
It was forgotten.
Okay, yeah, that happens. Blank days before the end of the present lease. If no changes are made, the tenant may continue to rent the apartment on a month-to-month basis. Okay, that's what normally happens under the law. If there's not a new lease, then it's a month-to-month. But it says if no changes are made, the tenant may continue to rent the apartment on a month-to-month basis with the rest of the lease remaining the same. In either case, the tenant must notify the landlord of the tenant's decision to stay or leave at least blank days. That also wasn't filled out. All right, so who is Jose to you? Is it your property manager? Is it a relative, Mr. Nunez?
He was the maintenance guy.
All right, so here's my question. He tells you just give us 90 days notice, and according to you, you give him 90 days notice? Like, when do you tell him? What do you tell him?
I told him I wouldn't be renewing my lease.
Okay, and this lease ends, let's just look at that lease again, because that's what we're governed by. This lease ends, date of lease, October 8th.
2021.
Yeah, just doesn't say when it begins and ends.
Yes, it does.
Okay, where does it say that?
And the top, it says date of lease,
No, it
September 10, 2020.
No, it doesn't. It says October 8th, 2020. See?
Then it says 9,
Yeah,
10,
that's
20.
Wait, what are you
that's the
looking
start of
at?
the
Hold
lease.
on one second. What is it you're looking at that has a different date, Mr. Nunez?
I'm looking at the copy of the lease that I got in front of me right here.
And what does that say?
September 10, 2020.
Can I don't have
wrong.
that.
That's wrong.
Right, we moved in October.
We moved in
Hold on,
October.
just hold on. Everybody hold on.
Oh, that looks doctored.
Yeah,
I'll
he
be the
fixed
judge of that. It does look doctored, but it used to say something
is.
else. Just
It
a
is.
second. It used to say, looks like it said 8 and then it got changed to 9. It still says renewable 1 year and then the words auto renewable appear. Is that a signed lease? Where's the signature on that one?
I never signed that.
Okay, this is very, very interesting. This purports to be signed by Inez and Derek and Jose, and it has different dates. The one I have is dated October 8th of 2020. The one you are holding up appears to have had an 8 at one point, and then it was changed to a 9. How long were you looking at the apartment before you moved in?
Yeah, just a couple days because we were actually just, looking for a place.
Yeah, that's really weird. So that wouldn't
And we
count
sold
for it.
it for rent, yeah.
Do you have, Mr. Nunez, I'm just curious, do you have any proof of rent payments in September?
No.
Okay, all right. You guys end up deciding in October that you're not going to continue to live there. You talked to
right.
Jose when?
I talked to Jose about moving in July.
July.
In July, I said I won't be renewing the lease.
Okay.
And he said fine.
Okay, and then what happens?
And then what happened?
Because you don't leave on October 8th, do you?
No.
No, you stayed until November what?
18th, November
Okay.
18th.
So when do you tell Jose that, hey, our apartment's ready and we're leaving?
Okay, I told him when, on the 17th or the 16th
Of what month?
of what, November?
November.
Of November.
Okay, and your rent is how
November.
much?
But
My rent now?
No, your rent then was what? $1,000 a month?
$1,000.
All right,
$1,000.
Mr. Nunez, why do you feel that you're entitled to the security deposit?
First of all, if you look at the top of the lease, it says 1 year, but it also says auto-renewable.
Okay, well, now
So
we
it
do
means-
now we do kind of have a problem because there's two leases. The one I have says renewable. The one you have says auto-renew. That's fine. Go on. Why else? So how do you feel that this lease means that they agreed to a whole new lease? Tell me how.
If you look at paragraph 25, it says that any agreement to be effective has to be in writing.
That's right.
I never received any notice of people moving out or staying in.
According to them, they gave notice to Jose. Where's Jose? Is he here to testify?
Yeah, but the lease says you have to have reading notice. It's in paragraph 25.
Right. No,
You see
let
on
me tell you what
25
paragraph. Yeah, I
paragraph
see it. Let me read out loud paragraph 25. The entire lease. All promises the landlord has made are contained in this written lease. The lease can only be changed by an agreement in writing by both the tenant and the landlord. I'm more interested in paragraph 20, which says renewals and changes in the lease. And then it talks about how you may offer a new lease. Well, you didn't. And that he has X amount of days, which you don't fill out. And then if he doesn't, here's the words of the lease that you had him sign. If no changes are made, the tenant may continue to rent the apartment on a month-to-month basis. What did you mean to say in here? I think, judging by what you just said, you expected that if nobody does anything, it's automatically another year. I think that's what you mean to say, right?
Yes.
Right. Then why is it that you say if no one does anything, it's a month-to-month?
It's the way the lease is written.
Now, where did you get the lease? On the internet?
Yes.
Right, okay. Garbage in, garbage out on the internet. This does not say what you think it says. You think it says, if you put the words auto-renew, that means they're obligated if nothing happens. This says the exact opposite of what you think it says. This says, and I quote, I'm going to read it again, paragraph 20, if no changes are made, and you didn't make any changes, neither you nor Jose offered them a new lease, neither you nor Jose, that's normally the way it works is they sign a new lease. But what you say instead is, and if nothing changes, which is what happened here, nothing changed, you may continue to rent on a month-to-month. I don't think you meant it to say that, but that's what it says. Not only does their copy of what they say is the lease say that, your copy of what you say is the lease also says that, right? It also says it's a month-to-month. So where are we? Now we're at a month-to-month. You think, Mr. Williams, let me hear from you, or Ms. Perez, whoever wants to tell me just one at a time. I want to understand how you feel that telling somebody in November we're leaving next week is appropriate notice.
Well, we actually gave Jose notice in July.
Yeah, but no, you didn't give him a date. I don't think that word means what you think it means. Notice means we're leaving on such and such a date. Why is that important? Because the landlord has to re-rent the place. And the landlord has to have enough time to re-rent the place. So if you say, hey, I moved out at 5 minutes ago, that's not notice to the landlord. Right. Hold on, let me finish. You don't have to give the landlord any notice if you had gotten out in October, because your lease ended in October. But you stayed. And by operation of law, when you stay, you make it a month to month. That's not only by operation of law, it's also by operation of your lease. So here's where we are. You stay in November, you pay in November, you are now a month-to-month tenant, and just like every other month-to-month tenant in New Jersey, you have to give 30 days notice. You gave him 1 week's notice. So why wouldn't you? Oh, just a second. I need you to listen. First listen to my question, then answer. If the day you say, hey, now is when I'm finally leaving, the apartment's ready, I'm leaving at the end of this month, or I'm leaving Thursday, but that's not a full rental period's worth of notice, which is what the law requires. So if you don't give a full rental period's notice, then you owe December, because you only gave him 6 days to find a tenant in December. You wouldn't owe January. I know he says he rented it in February. You claim you saw a tenant there in January. He showed me the new lease that starts in February. I don't even know that any of that matters, because I have you as a month-to-month tenant, and the only thing I am concerned about is December. You have to give 30 days notice. If you give it a week before November ends, then that counts for the end of December, not for the end of November. Answer that for me.
Can I say something? Can I say
well,
something?
No, let Inez talk, for the love of God. Let her say something.
When our lease ended October and we did the month-to-month, we did tell Jose we're just going to rent 1 more month, because we were already in process of most of our stuff in storage, because we were moving out of state.
Yeah, here's the thing. In your state, I know your apartment wasn't ready, and you didn't give them a definite date until the month of November. That's when you gave them a definite date. You would have had to give them the definite date November 1st. And just saying, well, we're paying this month because we really don't know when the apartment's ready, is not notice. And what did you want to say, Mr. Williams?
I was going to say that I actually told him, listen, I may need December also.
Right.
Listen,
right. Thank you for being honest. So it's
I'm
not
being
that's
honest.
I know, and that's where the notice thing comes in. So you owe December. That's all you owe. That means you, Mr. Nunez, can only keep December, and December's $1,000, not $1,500. I am ruling that Mr. Nunez has to return the remaining $500 to Mr. Williams and Ms. Perez. Good luck, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, George.
So the plaintiffs sued for $1,500, but they get $500 back, not $1,500. Mr. Nunez, let me ask you, you understand the judge's decision? And what do you think about it?
I understand what the judge said, but also you have to remember that when people move out of the apartment, they didn't paint the apartment when they left. So I had to go in there and paint the apartment and fix that. There wasn't damages. I got to be honest. There was no damages, but it needed to be painted. And the remaining $500 was part of the fixing up the apartment.
Well, you didn't make that clear in the case. And do you really expect all the plaintiffs to repaint apartments before they move out? I thought that's your job as the landlord.
That's the reason why you keep deposits.
Well, look, you didn't contest that at all. It wasn't brought up, so that's on you. You got to give $500 back, and you're going to have to live with it. Okay, that's a judge's order.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Mr. Williams, Ms. Perez, how do you feel about this? You were honest, Mr. Williams, and said you might stay December. Well, look, you had to pay for December. You knew you might have to, and you did. Mm-hmm. So you only get $500 back. You all right with that?
That's fine. That's fine. I'm happy with that.
Okay, very good. Well, an easy end to the case then. Everybody understands. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
500. That's all you get.
You know, I've talked before that when you sign a lease, you really should read it. I also know most people don't. But if you won't read the lease, at least look at the critical provisions, the amount of money you're paying, and in particular here, how much notice do you have to give before moving out? Typically, landlords require 30 days. Now, in a lot of cities and states, even if you don't mention in the lease how much notice you have to give. The law implies it's 30 days, but you got to check to make sure you know what your rights are. So either check online or check your lease.
Marilyn, what old person things do you do? Now, be honest now. It's time for you to come clean.
Oh my! This weekend was my daughter's graduation. We spent the entire weekend with all 3 of our children, and all I felt was old. I was very proud and everything, but I also felt super old.
That's because everybody's so young.
They're
You're at a
so
college
intolerant of the tiniest thing, like what did you say? Like making them repeat it.
That's true.
But,
you got to watch everything you say.
The phone. When we put the light on to read the menu.
Oh my God.
Or we take.
That's an old person thing.
That's an
Lighting
old person
up the
thing
menu,
to them.
for sure.
Because according to them, we then go like this when we're talking, and then the lights in their face.
Blinding everyone
and they're
in the
like, "Oh my
restaurant.
God, you people are so."
Right.
And then, or when I'm taking video and I insist on putting the flash, she's like, "Okay, you can't take that long a video. You're blinding me."
Right.
That made me feel old this weekend.
Intolerant kids.
You know.
But I'll bet you're wondering what old person thing I do.
Oh, I know what old person thinks.
Everything I do.
No, go ahead.
Sit there in my chair and yell, "Get off my lawn, you kids!"
You
So
meddling kids.
Shake my fist at them. No, I don't do that. Come on, but I do some old person things. Like, for example, I like to do puzzles.
I love to do puzzles.
We do them together a lot.
And I don't think that's necessarily.
And I always get annoyed when you keep getting the pieces together. I say, slow down.
You are a little.
Really making me look
You are
bad.
a little competitive.
Right. So I don't tolerate that, do I?
Yeah, well, you gotta, but it's I don't really think that's old person though. I think.
You don't think so?
I guess it's kind of old school, but
Get 1,000 pieces of a puzzle spilled out on your table.
yeah, it's kind of messy.